Look, as we talked to Robert Patman on Friday, our foreign affairs expert, and some speculation that a new president on the 20th of January, which is the inauguration day for Donald Trump, for his 47th president, that it may cause a change in American foreign policy and in particular perhaps a lessening of support for Ukraine as it continues its battle against the unprovoked aggression of Russia. A war that has now been going for 2 years? 2 years? A year and a half? 2 years? Claimed plenty of lives and has been a blight upon Europe and obviously a blight for the people of the Ukraine. So what do New Zealanders who support Ukraine think about the change in American president, and what is the mood perhaps that they're getting from loved ones back in Ukraine? We're joined now again by Kate Turska. She's a spokesperson for Mahi for Ukraine, a New Zealand organisation that supports people there as they battle Russia. Kate, lovely to have you with us again. Good morning.
Good morning, Sean. How are you?
Very well, thank you. Is there concern that a Donald Trump presidency means a lessening of American support for Ukraine?
Look, Sean, there's actually a few things that come to mind. Concern, cautious curiosity. There's definitely mixed feelings about this because Trump's past stance on Ukraine has been very inconsistent, and that creates uncertainty about his approach. And unpredictability, as you know, it can be a double-edged sword because Trump's impulsive, his unpredictable style is seen both as risk and a potential advantage. So the views there are split because in the end of the day, some of the rhetoric that we've heard from Trump throughout his election has been toward that line that potentially there's less of support for Ukraine or risk concern around freezing the war, but also his desire to leave strong legacy could push him toward taking a tougher stance if it aligns with his vision. You know, showing respect for the choices of the American people, President Zelensky did congratulate Trump and express hope for a peace through strength, which has been his approach in the past. And that resonates with Ukrainians seeking a strong, assertive U.S. stance against Russia. I mean, that is pretty much where the hope lies.
Yeah,
that,
I'd never thought about it that way, but you're saying his desire for peace doesn't necessarily mean acquiescence. It means that he might apply even more pressure, and given that the Russians are the ones who started this, he might apply even more pressure to get the Russians to a more reasonable negotiating position for peace. So it could be an upside, Kate.
I mean, absolutely. There is potential for bold action. You never know. And I think that decisive leadership from the U.S. can not only stop Russia's aggression, but also prevent Moscow from building an international axis of evil that challenges the entire global order. And that could align with Trump's interests if he perceives it as such. And knowing Trump and knowing him wanting to be the stronger man in every room, he potentially might view it that way as well. So there's definitely room for hope. But in the end of the day, currently, it's a bit of a wait-and-see game. There's no clarity.
Yeah. Meantime, Kate, as we head into spring, summer, autumn, winter in Ukraine, does that mean the military activity slows down and there is a respite?
Well, Russia's pushing ahead, as you know. There's been quite a few gains, smaller gains in the recent sort of weeks. So it's definitely, we don't see slowing down as yet, but obviously, as you know, winter's quite tough in Ukraine. So that might mean slowing things down. In the end of the day, Moscow's criminal war of aggression and its nuclear blackmail and how they terrorize civilians with critical infrastructure, everything else, that's happened through winter. Every winter we've seen, and this is the third year. Essentially, we're coming up to 3 years of war coming this February. And in the end of the day, we must remember that this is a century-defining event, far more consequential than any U.S. political shift.
Kate, in terms of life in Ukraine itself, after this long, has it reached a new sort of normal? Are we seeing huge outflowing of refugees now or not? Or have things, unsatisfactory, brutal as they are, have things stabilised somewhat internally?
I think the outflow of refugees we saw on the onset a bit more, and this is obviously has been happening throughout for the last 3 years, but not necessarily in the recent months. If anything, some Ukrainians are going back, trying to see whether they can, support Ukraine, living back in Ukraine. So we're definitely seeing some of that happening. But at the end of the day, people get used to anything. And this is a very saddening thought that something like this can be normalized. But after 3 years...
Yeah, 2.5, 3 years it is too. Gosh, it seems, yeah.